Letting go of someone is one of the hardest decisions we can make in life. No matter how aware we are that it is the best choice for us, there's always something inside us that resists, that pulls us back, and keeps us tied. Carl Jung, the visionary who transformed modern psychology, offered us a fascinating perspective on this process, showing us that letting go is not just an act of renunciation, but a profound spiritual movement that allows us to reconnect with our essence. Think of a relationship that deeply marked you, whether for better or worse. That connection, according to Jung, was not a coincidence. Every person who enters our life is a mirror, a reflection of something we carry within us but may not have recognized. But here's the key. When that relationship no longer brings us peace, when it becomes a constant source of conflict, it is our unconscious that begins to send us signals. Those feelings of discomfort, of emotional exhaustion, are not coincidences. They are a call to let go, to release what no longer resonates with our being. Jung taught us that our unconscious is in constant communication with us, but we rarely listen. Instead of paying attention to those signals, we choose to ignore them, clinging to what is familiar, even if it is destroying us. We hold on because we fear what might come next, the emptiness we believe that person will leave behind. But what if that emptiness was not something to fear, but a sacred space where something much more authentic can bloom? Imagine for a moment that you are carrying a heavy backpack. Each day, you add something else, resentments, expectations, fears. That backpack represents the relationships that do not let you grow, the attachments that hold you back. And one day, you realize you can no longer take another step because the weight is unbearable. That is the moment when you decide to let go, not because you want to forget, not because you hate that person, but because you love your peace more than anything else. Letting go of someone does not mean that person disappears from your life or your memories. It means releasing the energy you have invested in something that is no longer aligned with you. It means giving your soul space to breathe, to expand, and to reconnect with what truly matters. It is an act of courage, of self-love, and above all, of trust that the universe has something better in store for you. Have you ever noticed that after letting go of a difficult relationship, you start to feel lighter, clearer, as if suddenly the world has more color? That is no coincidence. Jung believed that by releasing what does not belong to us, we create space for something new to enter our lives. This new energy can take the form of people, opportunities, or even a deeper understanding of ourselves. When you decide to let go, you are not only freeing the other person, you are also freeing yourself. Because many times, what binds us is not the person itself, but the emotions, memories, and projections we have placed on them. Jung said that every significant relationship is filled with symbols, and it is those symbols that truly affect us. By letting go, you are breaking those invisible chains and allowing your energy to flow freely. The key to letting go lies in looking inward. It is within us that we find the answers, the lessons, and the strength to move forward. But this is not easy. It requires facing our shadows, those parts of ourselves we would rather not see. Jung showed us that shadows are not something to fear, but an essential part of our being that needs to be integrated. And by doing so, we not only grow, but also find a peace that transcends what we once thought possible. When you decide to let go, something magical happens. It's as if the universe starts conspiring in your favor. The right people begin to appear in your life. The opportunities that once seemed unreachable are now within your grasp. And most importantly, you start to feel at peace with yourself. This is the true spiritual transformation that Jung spoke about, a return to your authenticity, your essence, that place within you where you've always known what's best for you. And although the path isn't easy, I guarantee it's worth it because letting go doesn't mean losing. It means gaining something far more valuable, yourself. As you move forward in the process of letting go, you start to notice something curious. The initial resistance you felt begins to transform into clarity. That same relationship that once seemed essential now looks different, almost as if you were observing it from the outside. This happens because the act of letting go not only releases the other person, but also unlocks parts of yourself that were trapped. It's as if your energy, creativity, and ability to dream come back to life. Carl Jung said that true fulfillment isn't found in external things, but in internal work. And letting go is precisely that, internal work. No matter how much you try to change someone else or shape a relationship to fit your expectations, true transformation happens when you decide to change, when you choose to let go. This process won't always be linear. There will be days when you feel strong and confident, and others when you doubt your decision. But here's the secret. Those doubts aren't an obstacle. They are part of the journey. Jung taught that personal growth always involves facing the unknown, that part of ourselves we haven't explored. And it's in that exploration where magic happens. By letting go, you realize something fundamental. Peace isn't something someone else can give you, nor is it something you can find outside of yourself. Peace is a choice, a state of being that comes from accepting things as they are and trusting that the universe always has a greater plan for you. Jung called this synchronicity, the phenomenon where things seem to align perfectly. When you're in tune with yourself, you may wonder, how do I know if I really need to let someone go? The answer isn't in logic or in what others tell you. The answer lies in your intuition, that inner voice that sometimes whispers and other times we completely ignore. Jung believed our intuition is one of the most powerful channels for communicating with our unconscious. And if you feel that something no longer fits, that something no longer flows, that's your intuition speaking to you. However, it's not enough just to listen. You must act. This is where many of us fail. We cling to the familiar because we believe that letting go means failing. But that's not true. Letting go is the greatest act of courage you can take. It's telling the universe, I trust that what's coming will be better than what I'm leaving behind. And when you make that decision, doors begin to open. An interesting phenomenon Jung explored was how our energy changes after letting go. It's as if the chains that kept us bound break, allowing us to move forward into new experiences, relationships, and opportunities. But here's the most important thing. By freeing someone, you also free yourself. And in that space of freedom, you begin to reconnect with parts of yourself that you had forgotten. Think about this for a moment. How many times have you shaped your behavior, your dreams, or even your identity to fit into a relationship? How many times have you set aside your own desires for fear of losing someone? Jung would say that every time we do that, we move further away from our authenticity. And in the end, that disconnection takes a toll in the form of dissatisfaction, stress, or even illness. Letting go is not about abandoning or giving up. It is an act of self-love. It is recognizing that to be whole, you do not need anyone else to fill the voids within you. It is granting yourself permission to be who you truly are without seeking approval or offering apologies. And when you do, something beautiful happens. You begin to attract people and experiences that align with your true essence. The universe has a curious way of rewarding those who dare to let go. You may not see it immediately, but the signs will be there, an unexpected opportunity, a friendship that arises out of nowhere, or even a moment of peace that completely fills you. These are the ways in which the universe responds when you choose to trust in its flow. When you finally manage to let go, something profound begins to shift within you. That constant weight, that tension that seemed to drain all your energy, starts to fade. In its place, a sense of lightness emerges, as if you can finally take a deep breath after a long time. Jung described this transformation as a reconnection with your true essence, a return to the state of balance that we all carry within us, but often forget amidst the noise of toxic or unfulfilling relationships. It is crucial to understand that this process is not about forgetting someone or erasing their impact on your life. On the contrary, letting go means honoring what that person represented for you, being grateful for the lessons they left behind, and then allowing that connection to transform. Jung believed that every meaningful relationship serves as a kind of teacher, a guide that helps us discover aspects of ourselves that we might not have otherwise recognized. However, the true power of letting go does not lie in what you release, but in what you do with the space that remains. Often, The emptiness we fear so much is actually a blank canvas, an opportunity to rediscover who we are and what we truly want. But to seize it, we must be willing to look within, to explore the shadows that Jung considered essential for personal growth. These shadows, the parts of ourselves we prefer to avoid, are often the ones most activated in relationships. Perhaps you have noticed that certain people seem to bring out the worst in you, or that certain patterns repeat themselves over and over. Jung explained that this happens because those people and situations act as mirrors, reflecting aspects of our psyche that we need to integrate. Letting go, then, is not just an act of external release, but also a means of internal healing. Imagine you are in a river. If you cling to a rock out of fear of the current, you will remain stuck, unable to move forward. But if you decide to let go, although at first you may feel uncertain, you will soon discover that the river carries you toward new landscapes, toward calmer waters filled with possibilities. This is how life works. When you dare to let go, the natural flow of things begins to guide you toward what you truly need. And this is where something magical happens. When you stop resisting, when you choose to trust the process, the universe responds. Jung called it synchronicity, those moments when everything seems to align perfectly as if the universe were guiding you toward the right path. Perhaps you meet someone who shares your values, or maybe an opportunity arises that feels tailor-made for you. These are not coincidences. They are signs that you are in harmony with your purpose. Letting go is not something that happens overnight. It is a process, a journey that requires patience and compassion with yourself. There will be days when you feel strong and confident in your decision, and others when doubts and memories resurface. But even in those moments of uncertainty, remember this. Every step you take toward your authenticity is a step toward a fuller and more meaningful life. Jung taught us that true fulfillment is not found in avoiding pain, but in facing it, learning from it, and allowing it to transform us. Letting go of someone can be painful, but it is also profoundly liberating. It serves as a reminder that you do not need to hold on to what no longer resonates with you, that you deserve a life filled with peace, authenticity, and true love. When you finally let go, you are not just freeing the other person. You are also releasing the version of yourself that was trapped in that relationship. You reclaim your power, your energy, and your ability to dream. And in that process, you realize something incredible. You have always had everything you need to be happy. You just had to let go of what was preventing you from seeing it. The process of letting go also confronts us with one of the most important lessons Carl Jung shared, the power of self-acceptance. Many times, the attachment we feel towards someone is not solely about love or affection, but rather a deeper need to fill an internal void. We love because, at some level, we believe that without that person, we are not enough, that our identity is incomplete. But Jung taught us that everything we seek outside is already within us. When you decide to let go, you begin to see things with greater clarity. You realize that the relationship you once thought was essential was, in many cases, merely reflecting your own fears and insecurities. That need for validation, approval, or a sense of completeness does not come from the other person. It comes from within you. And by letting go, you give yourself the greatest gift, the opportunity to work on yourself and discover that you are whole just as you are. This realization is not always easy. Jung spoke about the concept of the shadow, that part of us that contains everything we prefer not to see. When letting go of someone, especially someone with whom we shared a deep connection, that shadow often rises to the surface. You may feel fear, sadness, or even anger. But these emotions are not your enemies. They are messengers, signals that something within you needs to be acknowledged and healed. This is why letting go is not just an act of releasing another person. It is an act of facing yourself. And in that confrontation, you discover a strength you did not know you had. You realize that you can feel pain and still move forward, that you can lose something important and still find peace. This is one of Jung's deepest teachings. The resilience of the human soul, our ability to transform even in the darkest moments. It is common that, when letting go, You experience what Jung called the dark night of the soul, a period of uncertainty, of deep introspection, where it seems like everything you knew is falling apart. But this dark night is not the end. It is the prelude to a rebirth, an awakening that leads you to a more authentic version of yourself. Because in that darkness, you learn to trust yourself, to listen to yourself, and to find your own light. And when you emerge on the other side, something beautiful happens. You realize that letting go is not a loss, but a gain. You gain clarity, you gain freedom, and most importantly, you gained a deeper connection with yourself. This is the gift Carl Jung wanted us all to discover. The ability to live a life in alignment with our truth, free from the chains of attachments that limit us. The relationships that truly matter, the ones aligned with your essence, do not make you feel less. They do not ask you to sacrifice your authenticity. On the contrary, they inspire you to be more yourself, to grow, to explore your potential. And when you choose to let go of what no longer fits, you open the door for these true connections to enter your life. Jung also spoke to us about synchronicity, that phenomenon where things seem to align perfectly and magically. When you release what no longer serves you, you create space for these synchronicities to occur. It is as if the universe rewards your courage by bringing exactly what you need into your life at the right moment. You may not see it immediately, but over time, you will realize that every step you took was part of a greater plan. This process leads you to a deeper understanding of yourself and your place in the world. You no longer feel trapped in repetitive patterns or relationships that drain you. Now, you have the freedom to choose from a place of self-love and authenticity, and that freedom is transformative. As you move forward on this path of letting go, you begin to notice how your energy shifts. That constant feeling of exhaustion, that internal struggle to hold on to something that no longer resonates with you, starts to fade. In its place, a new vitality arises, a lightness that allows you to focus on what truly matters, your connection with yourself and the deeper purpose of your life. Jung spoke of how our psychic energy redistributes when we stop investing in things that are not aligned with our truth. By letting go, you release that energy, and what once seemed impossible, dreaming, creating, feeling fulfilled, now begins to flow naturally. This is not just an emotional shift. It is a spiritual transformation that affects every aspect of your life. At this point, many people experience something Jung described as the integration of shadows. By releasing what no longer serves you, you start to see with greater clarity those parts of yourself that had remained hidden. You may recognize behavioral patterns, limiting beliefs, or fears that you had not noticed before. And instead of judging them, you accept them. Because accepting your shadows is not a sign of weakness, it is an act of self-love. Jung taught us that shadows do not disappear simply because you ignore them. In fact, the more you repress them, the more power they have over you. But when you decide to face them, integrate them, and learn from them, something incredible happens. You become a more complete person. You no longer need to seek validation outside yourself because you have found an inner peace that no one can take away from you. This process not only transforms your relationship with yourself, but also with others. When you choose to let go, you not only free the other person, but also break the patterns that kept you trapped. And in doing so, you begin to attract relationships that truly resonate with you. People who not only accept your authenticity, but celebrate it. Relationships built on mutual respect, support, and genuine connection. At this point, it is important to remember that letting go does not mean closing your heart. It does not mean becoming insensitive or stopping loving. On the contrary, it means loving from a more authentic place, without expectations, without attachments that limit you. Jung said that true love can only flourish when both people are in touch with their own essence. And by letting go, you give yourself the opportunity to reach that level of connection. The universe, as Jung explained, is in constant dialogue with us. Synchronicities, those moments when everything seems to align, are a sign that you are on the right path. And when you release what no longer serves you, you open the door for these synchronicities to occur more frequently. It could be an unexpected opportunity, a revealing conversation, or even a deep sense of peace that fills you completely. These are the ways the universe tells you you are doing the right thing. And although this path requires courage, I assure you it is worth it. Because when you choose to let go, you are not just releasing something that no longer serves you. You are reclaiming your power. You are remembering that you are the creator of your life, that every decision you make has the potential to bring you closer to your deepest purpose. Imagine for a moment what your life would be like if you allowed yourself to fully let go. Think about the space you could create, the energy you could regain, the dreams you could pursue. This is not an act of loss but of gain. It is an act of reconnection with your essence, with that place within you that has always known what is best for you. In the end, letting go is not about the other person. It is about you, about your ability to trust the process, to listen to your intuition, and to align yourself with what truly resonates with you. Carl Jung showed us that true transformation does not happen outside, but within. When you allow yourself to live from that place of authenticity, you realize there is nothing to fear because everything you need to be happy is already within you. So today, I invite you to reflect. What are you ready to let go of? What could you gain if you dared to free yourself from what no longer serves you? This is your moment to step into your authenticity, to trust the process, and to allow the universe to guide you toward what you truly need. Remember, the act of letting go is not an end. It is a new beginning. It is the first step toward a fuller, more authentic life, more in tune with your purpose. And although the path may seem uncertain, trust that every step is leading you towards something far greater than you can imagine. When you choose to let go, you not only free yourself, but you also send a powerful message to the universe. You are ready for what you truly deserve. Letting go is not an act of weakness. It is an act of courage. It is declaring that your peace, your authenticity, and your purpose are more important than any attachment keeping you tied to the past. And in that moment, something shifts. You begin to notice how everything around you starts to align, how the weight you carried transforms into a lightness that propels you forward. Carl Jung taught us that each of us has within us the power to create a life in harmony with our truth. That power does not lie in external things or in the relationships we try to control. It lies in our ability to release what does not serve us and open ourselves to what the universe has in store for us. And that, dear listener, is one of the deepest transformations you can experience today. I invite you to reflect on your own life. What are you carrying that no longer belongs to you? What relationships, fears, or beliefs are holding you back? Take a moment to close your eyes, take a deep breath, and ask yourself, what could I gain if I decided to let go? The answer may surprise you. It may inspire you to take a step into the unknown. But trust in that step, it will be the beginning of something extraordinary. Let me share something with you that might completely shift your perspective. But first, let me ask you this. Have you ever found yourself lost in thoughts about someone, even when you were certain you had moved on? It happens in quiet moments. When you're lying in bed at night, when a familiar song plays, or when an unexpected sense stirs an emotion you weren't prepared for. It's not always dramatic. Sometimes it's subtle, like a faint whisper in the back of your mind. But it lingers, persistent. Maybe you tell yourself it's just nostalgia, that it doesn't really mean anything. Maybe you try to brush it aside, burying it under distractions, hoping that one day you'll wake up and they'll be gone from your thoughts. And yet, despite all your efforts, they remain. It's almost as if their presence has nothing to do with them at all. Carl Jung believed that nothing in the unconscious mind happens randomly. Thoughts don't simply appear without reason. If someone continues resurfacing in your mind, it's because your subconscious is trying to tell you something. That person isn't just a memory. They're a symbol, a representation of something much larger than themselves. The unconscious is a vast and intricate landscape filled with every experience we've ever had, every wound, every joy, every unresolved emotion. Some things get neatly stored away, while others, especially those with real weight, find ways to resurface again and again, until we finally pay attention. Maybe you believe that if you had closure, these thoughts would disappear. Maybe you think that if you distract yourself enough, you'll eventually be free. But what if I told you that the more you try to silence them, the louder they become? Jung believed that the things we resist the most are often the very things that persist, that the mind does not let go of what it still needs to understand. So, the real question isn't, why am I still thinking about them? But rather, what part of myself is being reflected in them? Because sometimes, the people who occupy our thoughts the most are not just people. They are mirrors, showing us something we have yet to recognize within ourselves. And this is where everything begins. Think about this for a moment. What if the reason you can't stop thinking about them has nothing to do with them at all? What if they are merely a reflection, an echo of something within you, something your mind is trying to make sense of? Jung believed that we don't just see people for who they are. We see them through the lens of our own experiences, wounds, and unspoken desires. In other words, we project parts of ourselves onto them, often without realizing it. Projection is one of the most powerful psychological forces shaping human relationships, influencing not only how we see others, but also how we understand ourselves. This happens when we take something buried deep within us, an insecurity, an unfulfilled need, a suppressed aspect of ourselves, and unconsciously project it onto someone else. We believe we are fixated on a person, but in reality, we are obsessed with what they represent. It's not just about them. It's about what they awaken inside us. Have you ever admired someone so intensely that you felt drawn to them in a way that seemed almost beyond your control? It could be because they embody something you have denied in yourself, some part of you that you buried, silenced, or ignored. Maybe they carry a confidence you secretly wish you had. Perhaps they live with a sense of freedom and authenticity that you long for, but have never allowed yourself to embrace. And so, your mind fixates on them, not because they hold the answers, but because they remind you of something missing within you. Then, there is the other side of projection, the shadows, the aspects of ourselves we refuse to acknowledge, the wounds we are unwilling to confront. Sometimes, the people who occupy our thoughts the longest are the ones who have hurt us the most. We replay conversations, relive the pain, analyze every detail as if searching for something we overlooked. But Jung would tell you that this fixation is not about them. It's about you. It's about the wound that was exposed, the fear that was triggered, the unresolved part of you that surfaced. And until you recognize it for what it is, your mind will keep circling back, trying to solve a puzzle it doesn't yet understand. Taking distance is an act that can completely change your life. We often underestimate the power of stepping back, distancing ourselves from people, places, or even patterns that do not serve us. However, what Carl Jung taught us is that in that space of separation, the deepest truths emerge, those we tend to ignore when we are trapped in routine. When you choose to take distance, you not only change your perspective, but also trigger an internal dialogue with your unconscious. Suddenly, the things that once seemed invisible become clear. Repressed emotions come to light, and you begin to understand what you truly need to live in alignment with yourself. But what happens to the people you distance yourself from? How do they truly feel when you choose yourself? In many cases, the reaction of those around you is a direct reflection of their own shadow. Jung explained that what we project onto others is merely a mirror of what we carry within. So when someone reacts with anger, sadness, or even indifference to your decision to distance yourself, they are actually dealing with their own fears and insecurities. It is not so much that they are hurt by your absence, but rather by what your absence forces them to confront within themselves. On the other hand, this process not only affects those around you, it is also a call for you to explore your own shadows. By stepping away from the familiar, you face the void, that discomfort we often try to avoid. But here lies the key. That void is not something to fear. It is a sacred space where you can rediscover who you truly are, beyond external expectations and conditioning. When you choose to let go, something within you begins to heal. Perhaps it is a relationship that seemed perfect, but was actually draining you emotionally. Or maybe it is a group of people with whom you always felt obligated to fit in, even if it meant betraying parts of yourself. Carl Jung taught us that true freedom does not come from clinging, but from daring to let go. In releasing, you not only free others, but also free yourself. Think about this. Every time you set boundaries, every time you choose to prioritize yourself, you are sending a powerful message to your unconscious. You are saying, I deserve something better. And when your unconscious receives this message, your reality begins to shift. The right people start appearing in your life. Opportunities that once seemed unreachable become possible. And most importantly, you regain that inner peace you may have forgotten existed. This does not mean the journey will be easy. There will be moments of doubt, moments when you question whether you made the right decision. But remember, growth always comes with discomfort. Jung explained it this way. We cannot become who we truly are without first facing our shadows. And many times, those shadows come to the surface when we decide to distance ourselves from what keeps us trapped. When you take distance, people react in different ways. Some will try to blame you, making you feel selfish. Others may attempt to manipulate you into coming back. But here is the truth. Their reactions have nothing to do with you. They are a reflection of their own inability to deal with loss, to accept that your growth might mean the end of their comfort zone. The power of projection. What distance reveals. Carl Jung taught us that projection is one of the unconscious mind's most common mechanisms. What we see in others, both what we admire and what we criticize, is merely a reflection of ourselves. So when you distance yourself from someone, their reactions toward you become an invaluable opportunity to understand which aspects of yourself you have been avoiding. For example, if someone reacts with anger or rejection to your decision to distance yourself, it is possible that they are projecting their own fears of abandonment or feelings of inadequacy onto you. This does not mean you should carry their pain, but it does invite you to reflect. What are you projecting onto them? What part of yourself do you fear recognizing or facing? Distance not only exposes the unconscious dynamics of those around you, but also acts as a mirror for yourself. It is in that space of separation where you can see with greater clarity which relationships were truly nourishing you and which were draining you. Jung firmly believed that our relationships are not mere coincidences. Every person who enters our life does so to teach us something about ourselves, even if that lesson arrives through pain. The emptiness that emerges when we take a step back is not just a void. It is a space for transformation. That emptiness, however, can be frightening. We are so accustomed to filling our lives with constant interactions, with relationships that often serve as distractions from our inner world. But Jung saw the void differently. He viewed it as fertile ground for personal growth. In his own words, one does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. It is in that emptiness that you have the opportunity to confront your shadows, to integrate those aspects of yourself that you have long suppressed. Perhaps you realize that you have been sacrificing your own desires just to meet the expectations of others. Or maybe you discover that your fear of rejection has led you to cling to relationships that no longer serve you. This process of self-exploration is not comfortable, but it is essential. Every time you choose to look inward instead of seeking answers outside of yourself, you strengthen the connection with your true self. And that authenticity, according to Jung, is the key to a meaningful and fulfilling life. How do relationships change when you create distance? When you decide to take a step back, the dynamics of your relationships inevitably change. The people who are used to your constant presence may feel uncertain or even threatened. This can manifest in attempts to pull you back in criticisms of your decision, or even in apparent indifference. But as we mentioned before, these reactions are nothing more than projections of their own psyche. This is where your inner strength comes into play. You must remember that your decision to distance yourself is not an act of selfishness. It is an act of self-love. By prioritizing your well-being, you are taking a crucial step toward building healthier and more authentic relationships. Jung believed that the most meaningful relationships are those that inspire us to grow, not those that keep us in a state of complacency. Some people will adapt to this new balance and will choose to grow alongside you. These relationships, although they may go through an adjustment period, become stronger and more authentic over time. Others, however, may drift away entirely, and that is okay. As Jung said, separation is often the price of growth. Synchronicity. The universe responds to your authenticity. One of Jung's most fascinating ideas is the concept of synchronicity, the idea that seemingly unrelated events connect in meaningful ways when we are aligned with our true selves. When you step away from what no longer serves you, you create space for new opportunities and people to enter your life. This is not mere coincidence. It is the universe responding to your decision to prioritize your truth. Perhaps you have noticed that after letting go of a toxic relationship, people who genuinely support and inspire you begin to appear. Or maybe, by releasing a situation that was draining you, you suddenly gain the clarity to pursue a long-abandoned dream. These are not just strokes of luck. They are signs that you are on the right path. When you choose to take distance, the impact is not only seen in your external relationships, but also in your relationship with yourself. It is in these moments of separation that you begin to notice patterns that once went unnoticed. Perhaps you become aware of how you have allowed certain people or situations to consume your energy. Or maybe you confront the fear of being alone, a fear that, in reality, reflects a deeper disconnection from your own being. Distance offers you the gift of introspection. It's not just about distancing yourself from others, but about drawing closer to yourself. Carl Jung spoke about the significance of this process. How only by confronting our own shadows can we begin to truly understand who we are. The space that opens up when we let go allows new things to flourish, not only in your external world, but also within you. Taking a step back may initially bring discomfort, as if something is missing, but that feeling is merely a reflection of your growth. What once filled your life, even if only superficially, is no longer there, giving you the chance to fill that void with something more authentic. This is not a quick or easy process, but it is deeply transformative. The way others react to your decision to step away can serve as an indicator of how they have been engaging with you. Some people may be understanding, even supportive of this new path, while others may resist, trying to keep you within the dynamic that feels comfortable for them. Their reactions are not about you, but about themselves. Their resistance is a reflection of their own inability to adapt to your growth. The clarity that comes with distance helps you not only understand others better, but also rediscover your own boundaries. You begin to recognize which relationships uplift you and which ones drain you. This discernment is crucial for building a life aligned with your true purpose. It is not about judging others, but about making conscious choices regarding who you allow in your inner circle. The act of stepping away can also trigger a transformation in those who remain. Sometimes, your decision to set boundaries can inspire others to reflect on their own behaviors and patterns. Although this is not always the case, when it does happen, it is a sign that the change you initiated is not only benefiting you, but also those around you. However, the process of letting go can also bring moments of doubt. It is natural to question whether you made the right choice, especially when the void feels overwhelming or when others react intensely to your decision. But Jung reminds us that growth is never comfortable. It is in those moments of uncertainty that you must trust your intuition, the inner voice that led you to take this step in the first place. As you move forward on this path, you begin to notice subtle yet significant shifts in your life. People and opportunities that once seemed out of reach start to appear. Synchronicities, those seemingly coincidental moments, become more frequent. This is not mere chance. It is a sign that you are in alignment with your deepest essence. The universe responds to authenticity, opening doors that once seemed locked. That said, this process requires courage. Choosing authenticity over conformity is not always easy, especially in a world that constantly pressures you to fit in. But the reward is invaluable. A life that genuinely reflects who you are, filled with relationships and experiences that resonate with you on a profound level. On this journey toward authenticity, you begin to see relationships differently. People who once seemed indispensable now appear in a new light. You may realize that much of those connections were built on habits, expectations, or even a need for external validation. By stepping back, you gain clarity on whether these relationships truly added value to your life or merely occupied space that can now be filled with something more aligned with your true self. Some relationships survive this process, while others fade away. This may be painful at first, but over time, you come to understand that distance does not always mean loss. Sometimes, it means making room for something more genuine to grow. Jung believed that the most authentic relationships are not those maintained out of obligation or comfort, but those that inspire growth and evolution. You also begin to notice shifts in your energy. The emotional burdens you once carried by maintaining certain connections start to lift. That energy, previously trapped in conflicts, worries, or the constant urge to please others, is now freed for you to invest in things that truly matter. It's as if, by taking a step back, you reclaim parts of yourself that were lost in the process of trying to fit in. In this state of renewal, you realize that you don't need as many things or as many people as you once thought. Happiness becomes an ally, and you discover that true fulfillment doesn't come from accumulating, but from letting go. Carl Jung spoke about this as a return to one's essence, to what we truly are when we strip away the masks and distractions. The emptiness that at first might seem intimidating gradually transforms into a space of creativity. Now, you have the opportunity to build a life that reflects your values, dreams, and purpose. In this space, you can hear your intuition more clearly. The inner voice that was always there, but perhaps drowned out by the noise of external expectations. This process not only changes your relationship with yourself, but also deeply impacts the way you interact with the world. When you start living in alignment with your authentic self, the relationships you attract shift as well. They are no longer based on fear or dependency, but on mutual respect and a shared desire for growth. The right people begin to enter your life effortlessly, while those who no longer align with your path gradually fade away. Jung referred to this process as individuation, one of the greatest achievements of human life. It is not about perfection or reaching an ideal, but about becoming who you truly are. It's a journey without a final destination, because life itself is a continuous process of transformation. However, each step toward authenticity brings you closer to a sense of wholeness that no superficial connection can provide. This path also teaches you the art of surrender. By stepping back, you learn that you cannot force others to change or make them understand your journey. Every person is on their own path, and not everyone will be ready to walk alongside you, and that's okay. Your responsibility is not to pull others along, but to keep moving forward toward your truth. Transformation is not always immediately visible. You may go through periods of uncertainty, where answers are unclear, but over time, you begin to see the rewards of this process. Your life feels lighter, more aligned. The relationships that remain are deeper, and the opportunities that come your way resonate with your higher purpose. As you continue along this journey, you realize that the act of distancing yourself doesn't just transform your inner world. It reshapes how you perceive the outer world as well. You start seeing situations with greater clarity, free from the emotional distortions that once clouded your judgment. This doesn't mean you stop feeling. Rather, you gain the ability to observe your emotions without letting them control you. This level of awareness is precisely what Jung described as one of the pillars of individuation. Distance gives you the chance to redefine your priorities. You begin to ask yourself, what truly matters to me? Which relationships, activities, and goals align with my truth? These questions may seem simple, but their answers are profound and life-changing. Jung taught that an authentic life is not measured by external standards of success, but by the depth of our inner connection. When you start living from this place of authenticity, the rewards become evident. the right people arrive, and the experiences that genuinely enrich you appear almost as if by magic. However, this does not happen by chance. It is the result of your decision to let go of what no longer serves you, to create space for what truly matters. At this point, you begin to understand that distance is not necessarily an act of separation, but rather an act of connection with yourself. By prioritizing your well-being, you are setting a standard for your life, one that invites others to respect and value you for who you truly are. This is a subtle yet powerful shift, because you are no longer willing to compromise your inner peace just to please others. The relationships that remain after this process are the ones that withstand the test of time and change. They are connections that do not rely on constant physical or emotional proximity, but rather on a deep mutual respect. Jung once said that these relationships, built on authenticity, are the ones that truly enrich our lives. You do not need to struggle to maintain them because they flow naturally, without expectations or conditions. Of course, there will also be those who do not understand your decision. Some will accuse you of selfishness, interpreting your distance as rejection. But here's the truth. You are not obligated to explain your growth to those who are not ready to understand it. Everyone is on their own journey, and your responsibility is to yourself, not to the expectations of others. Distance also teaches you the power of patience. Not everything is resolved immediately, and not all answers arrive when you seek them. But as Jung said, the process of individuation is not a destination. It is a journey. Every step you take, no matter how small, brings you closer to your true self. And in this journey, even moments of uncertainty have a purpose. As you integrate this new way of living, you also realize that distance is not always permanent. Some relationships that seem lost along the way may reconnect later, but under new conditions. These rekindled connections are based on a deeper mutual understanding, on a respect that perhaps did not exist before. But if they do not return, that is also okay, because you no longer depend on them to feel whole. This process not only affects your personal relationships, but also impacts how you relate to your goals and dreams. When you decide to let go of what is not aligned with you, you begin to rediscover your passions, those things that truly inspire you and give you purpose. It is as if, by freeing yourself from unnecessary burdens, you regain the energy and clarity needed to pursue what you truly desire. That clarity, which arises from taking a step back, leads you to redefine the meaning of success in your life. Success is no longer about meeting external standards, but about living in alignment with your inner self. Carl Jung emphasized that the purpose of life is not to attain superficial happiness, but to find a fulfillment that arises from integrating all parts of yourself, including those you once repressed or ignored. The act of creating distance becomes a symbol of your commitment to this deeper purpose, a constant reminder that your energy is sacred and that you are unwilling to waste it on relationships, activities, or situations that do not contribute to your well-being. This decision to protect your energy is not an act of selfishness, but a form of self-love, a love that, paradoxically, allows you to be more generous with others. When you are aligned with yourself, relationships no longer feel like a burden. Instead of trying to fit in or seek validation, you realize that the most valuable connections are the ones that allow you to be your true self. These relationships do not require constant effort to be maintained because they flow naturally. They are authentic, based on acceptance and mutual respect. As you delve deeper into this path, you also begin to notice patterns in your life that previously went unnoticed. Perhaps you realize that you have been repeating the same mistakes in different relationships, or that certain toxic dynamics have persisted for years. Jung described this as part of the process of integration, making the unconscious conscious. By creating distance, you gain the opportunity to break these cycles and choose something different. The process of letting go is not always linear. There will be moments when nostalgia creeps in, making you yearn for what you left behind, especially if those people or situations played a significant role in your life. But that nostalgia is not a sign that you should go back. It is an opportunity to reflect on what you truly value and what you are willing to accept in the future. At this stage, you begin to notice how your perception of time changes. The things that once seemed urgent no longer hold the same weight. Now, you understand that personal growth cannot be rushed, that each stage has its own rhythm, and that even moments of apparent stagnation serve a purpose. Jung once said that the unconscious is always at work, even when we are not aware of it. So, even if you do not see immediate results, you can trust that the process is unfolding. This journey also leads you to a deeper understanding of synchronicity. When you live in alignment with yourself, you start to notice how things fall into place effortlessly, how the right people appear at the perfect time, how opportunities arise just when you need them most, and how the challenges you face seem designed to help you grow. This is not a coincidence. It is a sign that you are on the right path. Through this process, you discover that the greatest gift of stepping back is not what you lose, but what you gain: a deeper connection with yourself, one that is more aligned with your values, and an inner peace that cannot be replaced by anything external. You begin to realize that although the path may be challenging, every step is worth it. The transformation you experience is not just for you. It also impacts those around you. When you choose to live authentically, you inspire others to do the same. You do not need to say a word. Your example is enough. And while not everyone will follow your path, those who do will find in you a source of inspiration and strength. At the end of this process, you realize that taking distance is not about running away or abandoning anything. It is about reconnecting with what truly matters. It is an act of courage that allows you to redefine your life from a place of authenticity and fulfillment. The relationships that remain after this process are the ones that are meant to be, and the new connections that come into your life do so from a space of respect and harmony. You come to understand that by letting go of what no longer resonates with you, you are sending a powerful message to the universe. You are ready for something better. Carl Jung taught us that the journey toward oneself is the most significant adventure we can embark on. It is a path that not only transforms our own lives, but also has a profound impact on those around us. Your decision to live in alignment with yourself is not just a personal act. It is a beacon of light that guides others who are searching for the courage to do the same. Now, I invite you to reflect. What relationships, habits, or situations in your life no longer resonate with you? What would you gain by releasing what drains you and making space for what truly matters? These questions have the power to transform your reality if you allow yourself to listen to them with honesty. Embracing this journey of letting go is not just about leaving things behind. It is about stepping into a new version of yourself, one that is freer, wiser, and more in tune with your true essence. Every challenge you face, every moment of doubt, and every step forward is shaping you into the person you are meant to be. Trust that the universe is always working in your favor, guiding you toward the experiences and people that align with your highest good. The more you release what no longer serves you, the more you make space for growth, joy, and purpose. Remember, you are not losing anything. You are making room for something greater. You are not walking away. You are walking toward the life you truly deserve. Keep moving forward with courage, knowing that every decision you make from a place of authenticity brings you closer to the fulfillment and peace you seek. Your journey is yours to create. Believe in it, honor it, and most importantly, embrace it with an open heart.
There's something most people are completely unaware of. When someone walks away from your life, there's one fatal mistake that can ensure they never come back. This mistake is not born from logic, wisdom, or clarity. It comes from fear, desperation, and a deep misunderstanding of the unconscious forces that govern human behavior. Carl Jung, the great Swiss psychiatrist, taught us something profound, that nothing in our relationships happens by accident. Every experience we have with another person is a mirror reflecting our inner world. So when someone distances themselves from you, the real question isn't why are they pulling away, but rather, What is this situation revealing about me? The first truth you need to embrace is this. Distance itself is not the real problem. It's just a surface symptom of something deeper. Jung introduced us to the concept of projection, the idea that what we perceive in others is often a hidden or suppressed aspect of ourselves. So when someone pulls away and your immediate reaction is to chase after them, send messages, demand answers, or try to hold on, you're not just reacting to the situation. You're projecting. You're showing your fear of abandonment, your craving for validation, your deep-rooted insecurity. Ironically, those desperate attempts to bring someone closer tend to push them even further away. Imagine someone needs space to process their own emotions, but you, in a panic, smother them with attention, questions, and emotional pressure. What do you think happens? Instead of drawing them back in, they retreat even more. The unconscious mind interprets this pressure as a threat. And according to Jung, the soul doesn't respond well to threats. It seeks freedom, expansion, and authenticity. Any attempt to force a connection that is naturally dissolving is experienced by the other person as an invasion, as a violation of their emotional space. The natural response? Escape. But this doesn't mean all is lost. In fact, quite the opposite. What looks like an ending can actually be the beginning of something far more powerful, an invitation to grow, to evolve. Jung spoke of the process of individuation, the journey each of us must take to become who we truly are, independent of others' expectations. So when someone steps out of your life, instead of trying to drag them back, it's time to turn inward, to ask yourself, what part of me have I abandoned? Have I been losing myself in this relationship? Have I neglected my own desires, my own needs? This is where one of the most essential concepts in Jungian psychology comes into play: the shadow. The shadow represents the parts of ourselves we've repressed, ignored, or denied because we were too afraid or ashamed to face them. In relationships, it's common for us to project this shadow onto the other person. We look to them to complete us, to heal us, to fill the emptiness we feel inside. And when they leave, it feels like something inside us breaks. But the truth is, the pain we feel isn't caused by their absence. It's caused by the disconnection we have with ourselves. The real issue is not how far the other person has gone, but how far you've drifted from your own essence. And the only way to shift this dynamic is to shift your focus. Stop asking, how can I get them to come back? And instead ask, how can I return to myself? Because when you begin to heal the bond you have with yourself, when you reconnect with your inner truth, when you realign with your soul, something remarkable happens. The other person often feels this change, without you having to say a word, without any pressure or manipulation. They sense the difference. And in many cases, they start to come back. But this part is crucial. You cannot do this inner work as a strategy to win them back. That's not how it works. You can't pretend to be detached in hopes that it will make them return. The unconscious mind is incredibly sensitive. It knows when something isn't authentic. Jung said, the unconscious never lies. So if you truly want to transform your relationship, you must be willing to transform yourself, even if that transformation means accepting the possibility that the other person may never return. And this is where most people fail. They are terrified of letting go. They believe the emptiness will swallow them. But here's the irony. Only when you fully let go, when you accept the loss and surrender the outcome, do you open the door for something greater to emerge. Emotional independence is not a shallow self-help slogan. It's a deep psychological truth. When you no longer need someone to validate you, when you are no longer clinging to another to feel whole, you become magnetic. Because what truly draws people to us is not our desperation. It's not our neediness. It's our self-possession, our confidence, our authenticity. People are not attracted to those who are trying to fill a void. They are drawn to those who are already full, those who are rooted in themselves, who shine from within, who radiate a sense of wholeness. So, if someone has walked away from your life, don't beg them to return. Don't chase after them in fear. Go within. Sit in the silence. Face the parts of yourself you've long avoided. Heal the wounds you've tried to cover with someone else's presence. And as you do this, you may discover something extraordinary. Not only might the other person feel drawn back into your orbit, but more importantly, you'll realize you no longer need them to feel complete. You've already come home to yourself. Carl Jung once said that the greatest power a person can possess is to be themselves, authentically, without masks, and without the need for external validation. To embody this truth is to walk through life in alignment with your core, and when you do, the world around you begins to shift in ways that are often unexpected, yet deeply transformative. So, if someone has walked away from your life, stop asking yourself how to get them back. Instead, ask yourself, what parts of me have I been ignoring? Have I sacrificed my dreams for the sake of that relationship? Have I abandoned my individuality to maintain something that ultimately disconnected me from my own essence? These questions are difficult, but necessary, because they point you back to the most important relationship you'll ever have, the one with yourself. This is the moment to return to you, to rediscover the parts of your being that you may have hidden, silenced, or forgotten. And when you begin this journey inward, everything around you starts to realign, not just in your relationships, but in every facet of your life. But here's the catch. This transformation requires patience. And that is perhaps the hardest part of all. We live in a world that craves immediacy. We want results now. We want that person to come back today, this very moment. But inner work doesn't operate on demand. Jung reminded us that real transformation doesn't happen overnight. It is a deep, sometimes painful process, one in which you confront your shadow, face your fears, and slowly learn to love yourself in all your complexity, not just the light, but also the darkness within you. And something truly remarkable happens when you go through that process. You stop needing that person to return. You begin to realize that you never really needed them in the first place. And that moment of clarity, of deep inner healing, is when the universe begins to shift in your favor. Not because you're trying to force anything, not because you're attempting to control outcomes, but because your entire frequency has changed. You become whole, complete within yourself. And from that place of wholeness, the people who are truly aligned with your essence start to appear in your life. Maybe the one who left will return. Maybe they won't. But what's certain is that you will be at peace. And peace is what truly matters in the end. When you stop chasing someone who has distanced themselves and instead focus all that energy on your own growth, you begin to uncover a deep universal truth. Real attraction doesn't come from need. It comes from inner abundance. Jung taught us that the collective unconscious plays a powerful role in shaping our relationships, often in ways our conscious mind can't fully grasp. If you're vibrating from a place of emotional scarcity, life will reflect that emptiness back to you. But if you operate from a place of wholeness, from the understanding that you don't need anyone to complete you, then everything begins to change. At first, this idea may feel uncomfortable. You might resist it. You might think about that person constantly, about what could have been, about what you did wrong, about all the what-ifs. But understand this. Every obsessive thought is like an anchor that keeps you trapped in the past. Jung believed that the conscious mind presents us with recurring symbols and patterns until we finally resolve them. So what if this distance, this loss, isn't a punishment, but a lesson, a sacred opportunity your psyche needs to evolve? Maybe it's trying to teach you how to let go, how to trust, how to reconnect with your true self before merging with someone else. Because when someone leaves, an energetic imbalance often becomes visible, one that may have been there all along. Perhaps you were giving too much, while the other person gave too little. This imbalance can create a kind of emotional suffocation for the other person, even if they're not consciously aware of it. Jung spoke of the anima and animus, the feminine and masculine energies that live within each of us. In a healthy relationship, these energies dance in harmony. But when a relationship is built on dependency rather than connection, one of these forces can overpower the other, leading to disharmony. That disharmony, if left unchecked, often leads to separation. So if your true intention is to reconnect with someone, understand that the way is not to chase after them. It is to restore balance. That means reclaiming your personal power, not from a place of ego, not out of pride or revenge, but from a deep understanding that no relationship can thrive if one person forgets themselves in the process. As you heal, as you rebuild your emotional strength, your energy begins to shift. And that shift doesn't go unnoticed. People feel it, not in the words you speak, but in the vibration you emit. Think about it. Have you ever seen someone you once overlooked suddenly become captivating? Not because they changed physically, but because they started carrying themselves differently, with more presence, more confidence, more inner peace. That is what happens when you transform your inner world. You move out of a frequency of neediness and into a frequency of magnetism. Jung once said that the unconscious mind perceives subtle dynamics long before our rational mind can make sense of them. This is why, when someone notices that you're no longer the same, that you no longer depend on their presence to feel whole, their perception of you begins to shift. But here's the thing. This only works if it's real. It can't be a performance. It's not about pretending to be indifferent while secretly hoping they'll come back. You have to be truly willing to let go. You have to be genuinely ready to close that chapter, even when you have no guarantees about what the future holds. And that's exactly where most people stumble. They hold on because they're afraid of the silence, afraid of the emptiness, afraid of what it means if the other person never comes back. But what they fail to understand is that only within that emptiness can something new take root. Only in that void can something more aligned with who you really are begin to emerge. Jung taught that the process of individuation, the path of becoming whole, is both one of the most painful and one of the most illuminating journeys we can go through. It forces us to confront the fact that many of the things we thought we needed were just projections, illusions created by our own inner voids. We begin to see that many of the relationships we longed for weren't actually healthy. They were simply distractions, ways to avoid looking inward, to avoid facing ourselves. And once this realization truly sinks in, the desperate need for someone to return simply fades away. That craving, that yearning that once consumed you, dissolves. And it's precisely at that moment, at the very point when you finally let go, that destiny begins to shift in your favor. If someone has chosen to walk away, honor that decision. Don't interfere. Don't try to chase them with desperate messages, with words meant to convince or manipulate. That's not how human psychology works. Instead, shift your focus inward. Reinvest in yourself. Pick up the pieces of yourself you abandoned while prioritizing that relationship. Return to your passions, your projects, your growth. Not because you want them to see you differently, not to prove anything to anyone, but because you deserve it. Because your life should never revolve around someone else's presence or absence. The real secret is that when you do this, when you commit fully to your own healing, your own path, the entire world around you starts to change. People begin to perceive you differently, not because your appearance has changed, but because your energy has shifted. And here's the fascinating part. The person who once walked away may start to feel drawn to you again. Not because you chased them, not because you tried to make them notice, but because the version of you they once knew no longer exists. You've grown, transformed, and your energy speaks louder than words ever could. But here's where it gets even more powerful. When you reach this point, it might not even be you who wants them back anymore. You might discover that by raising your vibration, what once felt essential no longer resonates. You may come to see that the relationship you once fought so hard to revive was actually holding you back. And in that space of freedom, of clarity, you find that true love, healthy, balanced, expansive love, was waiting for you elsewhere all along. Because when you truly let go, something inside you shifts irreversibly. It's no longer a strategy. It's no longer a tactic to bring them back. It becomes a deep transformation in the way you view relationships, and more importantly, in the way you see yourself. Carl Jung taught us that everything we experience in the external world is merely a reflection of our internal world. If your love life has been marked by instability, uncertainty, and a constant need for approval, this is not a coincidence. These are the results of unconscious patterns that you've absorbed over time. Patterns you continue to repeat without even realizing it. The unconscious mind is like a mirror. It shows you precisely what you need to see, even when it's not what you want to see. If you've experienced abandonment or rejection in the past, there's likely a part of you that, without knowing it, fears emotional closeness while simultaneously longing for it with desperation. This inner conflict gets projected onto your relationships. Perhaps you've idealized someone, believing deep down that being close to them might finally fill the emptiness you carry within. But the truth is, no one else can do that for you. Only you can confront your own emotional wounds and find fulfillment from within. If someone walked out of your life, don't rush to see it as a loss. Instead, ask yourself, what opportunity is this situation offering me? Maybe it's a chance to learn how to be okay with yourself without relying on external validation. Maybe it's time to explore hidden corners of your psyche, those parts you've been avoiding. Jung spoke of the process of individuation, the journey of no longer seeking outside what has always existed within. It's a difficult path. It requires confronting pain, loneliness, and uncertainty. But if you dare to walk it, you'll come to a powerful realization. What you were truly searching for in the other person was actually a missing piece of yourself that you had not yet acknowledged or integrated. Often, the fear of letting go stems from a false belief. The idea that if we release something, we'll lose something valuable. But Jung reveals that excessive attachment to someone or something is not love. It's insecurity masked as affection. True love allows for freedom. It does not demand possession or control. So if you're currently struggling with someone's absence or the emotional distance in a relationship, ask yourself, is this truly love or is it fear? Because if it's fear, the best thing you can do is face it, not avoid it by chasing the other person or clinging to a sense of false hope. When you truly begin to heal, something profound happens. You stop viewing others as the solution to your emotional wounds. You no longer seek validation through someone else because you've already found that value within yourself. And what follows this shift is remarkable. You stop chasing and you begin to attract. Not because you're using tactics or psychological tricks, but because your energy has changed. When you no longer need someone to feel whole, the dynamics of your relationships transform entirely. This is where synchronicity enters, a central concept in Jung's work. When you work on yourself authentically, without the agenda of immediate outcomes, meaningful coincidences begin to unfold. Maybe the person you once longed for reappears unexpectedly, or maybe you meet someone new who resonates more deeply with who you are now. The point is this: when your internal world changes, your external reality changes too. But this transformation cannot be faked or rushed. It must arise from a sincere process of self-discovery. If right now you feel incapable of letting go, if the fear of emptiness is overwhelming, allow yourself to feel it. Don't run from it with distractions or by desperately hoping that someone will come back. Jung said, "What you resist persists." So instead, face the pain. Look into what it's trying to teach you. It might show you that you've been seeking outside what only exists within. It might reveal that it's time to stop waiting for someone else to choose you, and finally choose yourself. And when you do, when you truly choose yourself, something changes. The world around you starts to reflect that decision. Not because you've learned how to manipulate or control others, but because you finally understood that real connection doesn't come from attachment, it comes from authenticity. If someone returns to your life after you've done this deep inner work, it will be because they sense that change in you. And if they don't, it's because they were never aligned with your true self in the first place. Either way, you win. Because in the act of letting go, you've found yourself. When you reach the point where you've genuinely released, something magical happens. You stop feeling the need for that person to return. Not because you stopped loving them or stopped valuing the relationship, but because you now understand that it was never really about them. It was always about you. Jung taught that every relationship is a mirror of our own psyche. The things that hurt us about others are often unresolved parts of ourselves that we haven't yet healed. Once you grasp this, your way of relating to others shifts entirely. You no longer desperately need someone else to fill your emotional voids because you've already learned how to do that on your own. You no longer obsess over someone's return because you understand that if they're truly meant to be in your life, they will be, naturally, effortlessly, and without force. And if they don't come back, it's because their role in your story has been fulfilled. At that point, love is no longer a necessity. It becomes a choice. And when you choose love from a place of wholeness rather than lack, the relationships you attract are completely different. No more codependency. No more fear of abandonment. Just genuine, mutual connections rooted in respect, freedom, and authenticity. Because when you become someone who chooses themselves, you inevitably begin to attract people who are aligned with that same level of consciousness. If the person returns, it will be for the right reasons. Not because you chased them, not because you manipulated them, but because your energy is now different. And if they don't return, it's because the universe has something better in store for you. Not better in a superficial comparative sense, but better in the sense that it aligns with the person you've now become. Carl Jung once said, "What you resist persists, but what you accept transforms you." And within that phrase lies a powerful truth, one that many of us ignore as we move through life, clinging to pain, fear, and a desperate need for control. But what if, instead of resisting the situation you're currently experiencing, you used it as a gateway for growth? What if, instead of trying to escape your pain, you allowed it to teach you something deeper about yourself? Stop for a moment. Reflect. Ask yourself, what part of me is asking to be seen right now? What aspect of me needs love, healing, or attention before I can truly receive the kind of relationship I dream of? Before I can experience peace, stability, or joy? These questions, though simple on the surface, hold more power than any desperate attempt to get someone back into your life. Why? Because when you begin to transform your inner world, your outer world inevitably shifts to match that vibration. Change begins from within, always. And now, I want to ask you something from the heart. If this message has touched something inside you, if it echoed with a quiet truth you've been avoiding, take a moment to sit with it. If you feel like you're on the edge of making a change, but you're still caught in doubt, uncertainty, or fear, I invite you to share. Leave a comment below. Tell me, what part of this message impacted you the most? What is the hardest thing for you to let go of? Your story matters, and by sharing it, you might not only begin your own healing, you might help someone else begin theirs too. Let's create a space here where we can grow together, a place where we can be honest about our wounds and our desires, a community where vulnerability is seen as strength and healing is celebrated. And if you know someone who's trapped in the fear of losing someone else, someone who's clinging to a relationship, a person, or an idea that's slowly breaking them, send them this video. They might not say it out loud, but they could be waiting for a message like this. Sometimes, all it takes is a small spark to ignite an entirely new path. And maybe this is that spark. If you haven't subscribed yet, now's the time. Hit the bell so you never miss a message like this again. Because every time you engage with this content, whether by commenting, sharing, or simply watching, you're helping to spread a message of healing, self-awareness, and truth. And the more people this message reaches, the more hearts we can open, and the more lives we can help transform. Remember this, the key has never been about making someone come back. The real key, the one that actually changes your life, is learning how to come back to yourself, to return to your center, to find home within your own heart. And when you finally do that, you'll realize something powerful. You never truly lost anything. In fact, what you gained is priceless. The opportunity to build a life rooted in authenticity, in deep self-love, and in genuine connection. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being part of this journey. We'll meet again in the next video. And don't forget, the power to transform your life has always been inside of you. Now, it's time to use it.